y'all two ever date, you and Nia Long?
Long and I have always been super close. You know what I mean? That's dating. I don't kiss and tell.
All right, there's so many things coming out in this particular situation between Nia Long and Ime Udoka. Well, really him and the Celtics. But the thing I want to do is give you something that you can use to learn from this situation, because I'm not really the gossip person. What can you learn from this situation? Well, it's really simple. And I'm looking at Nia Long, and I'm not saying it's her fault that she got cheated on, but you got to look at the people that we choose to date, to be with, our choices in mates. Now, for those of you who don't know, they had a child, I think back in 2010, 13, something like that, and they've been engaged up until now. And, people may wonder, like, why did he never marry this woman? Well, there's a possibility he got engaged because he felt the need to. He felt pressure to. And speaking of pressure, back when they were together, he was an NBA player. Now he, 5 years later, he is actually a Celtics coach. He's the coach of the Boston Celtics. And he's being accused of many different things. One, which is the most egregious, is the reason why this is starting to get so crazy is because there's a possibility that he was dating multiple women in the Celtics organization, and some women got pregnant. And one of the biggest problems with this is that he was harassing the women, allegedly, to get ABOs. Like, yo, so what you gonna do about that? Like do something. And that isn't why we're here. We're here to talk about the decision making of Nia Long. Now, Nia Long is 51. The Udoka guy is like 45. So that's the first issue. Dating men that are younger than you instead of older than you is already a red flag. But the biggest thing is, what if this Udoka guy was like, not really a good person in the beginning, but they just happened to get pregnant and have a child, so they decided to stay together? Because there's a reason why they never got married. And I think it could be because there are some things going on in the background that she knew about, and, they decided to stay engaged until they work it out. But now that him being him is really out there, and everybody knows probably the same thing that Nia Long already knew about this guy, now it's out there. But I think it's a possibility that he's been like this for years, and that's the reason why they never went forward in a marriage. She just happened to have a baby by the guy, right? But going a little deeper in this, why did she choose this guy? Remember, he was in the NBA, and he wasn't really an NBA player. That's the reason why he left the league so early, because he's kind of a scrub, right? So somebody like Nia Long, why did she choose this guy? I'm not going to say he's a bum, but he's a weirdo. But why him? Well, there's a possibility that regardless of what you actually think about Nia Long, there's a very good possibility that nobody else wanted her. And why would I say that? Because there's actual possibility that Nia Long was a pass around in the industry. Pass around meaning a woman that nobody's ever going to want to take seriously. This guy messes with her, and then this guy messes with her, and this guy messes with her, and this guy messes with her, this guy, and everybody knows about that. She just, is just passed around, and she's just who she is. So let me give you a little understanding of what I mean by pass around. She dated, not even dated, they just were friends, and they, did a little something extra on the side with Lorenz Tate, right? Now, okay, Lorenz Tate, they had a chemistry. What's wrong with that, right? Absolutely nothing. But just keep this in mind. Udoka started dating or messing around with his coworkers, right? Well, guess who started dating their coworkers? Nia Long. So Nia Long and Lorenz Tate were kicking it, right? So that's the first person she slept with, one of the first people. Another person that was her coworker that she dated was Chris Tucker. Remember, they did Friday together, right? So those are two movies that she did, and then two guys that she dated as co-workers. Okay, it is what it is. She had her first child with Masai Dorsey, who was an actor. 3 actors so far, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But then Kevin Phillips, then Cuttino Mobley, which is an NBA player. Then Dwight Freeney, which is an NFL player. Then T.I. before he got with Tiny. And I'm not saying these names in particular order. So T.I. Then 50 Cent. And when you know a woman that has dated 50 Cent, that is a 1,000% unintentional relationship. And what this means with unintentional is there's no intentions on dating this person. This person is just straight, y'all just finna and going about your business. Because 50 Cent ain't married nobody, right? 50 Cent is one of those guys that has dated virtually every beautiful woman in the industry. And there's a reason why. Because women love 50 Cent or whatever. And they want some of that. That is another example of Nia Long's past kind of like catching up with her. Because if you're just dating unintentionally, dating different guys, because, we already talked about Lorenz Tate and Chris Tucker. Those are actors. And then she went to NBA players, Cuttino Mobley, NFL players, Dwight Freeney. Then she started moving on to rappers, and then after that, Chris Webber, another basketball player, NBA player, and then Chris Rock. Now we on comedians, and you're like, okay, Nia, you kind of out here a little bit, right? But I'm not done. Actor Ricky Fontaine, I think he's an actor. And then Shamar Moore. Then Kudo Isaacs. And then the most peculiar person that she dated, and this was early, Peter Thomas from Atlanta Housewives. Peter Thomas from Atlanta Housewives. What does this mean? Well, by the time she got to the point where she may have wanted to finally settle down or wanted a good man or whatever, it's a possibility that nobody else wanted her because she's been ran through by actors, comedians, football players, basketball players, and rappers. But this is worse. Multiple rappers, multiple basketball players, multiple actors, and multiple comedians in one football player. So if you just sit back and just say, wow. 2 things. One, why didn't any of these men, as beautiful as Nia Long has always been, especially when she was younger, why didn't any of these men want to, marry her, want to, start a family with her? Like, she had a child. She was engaged with Masai Dorsey. And apparently, from what I read, it was a very ugly scenario. So it's a possibility that by the time she got to the point where she really wanted to settle down and all these different things, there was nobody to settle down with. And she had to settle for this weirdo, M.A. Udoka, or whatever his name is. M.A. whatever. And now, because of her decision, he's running around being who he probably always was, a weirdo, and impregnating, allegedly, different people in the Celtics organization and harassing them, telling them to, get ABOs. So what can you learn from this? Because that's what I'm here to do, to help you learn from other people's shortcomings and mistakes. As a woman, to one, never date multiple men in your industry. If you work for IBM and you've been working there for 10 years and you have a love interest and y'all start dating, right? If that relationship does not work out at IBM, You cannot date another person in IBM. I don't care what floor, what building. I don't care if it's another building. You can't. Because now you're starting to start something within your industry. But according to everything that I've learned about Nia Long, she's dated about 15 different guys in her industry. Because it's not about that it's been 15 guys, but 15 affluent people in the industry. And none of them wanted her. So in my opinion, the way I look at this, she had to settle for this weirdo, Udoka. And the reason for that is because nobody else in the industry was dumb enough to actually want to be with Nia Long. Think about this. Shout out to T.I. T.I. chose to marry Tiny over Nia Long. And this isn't saying anything bad about Tiny. It's just saying something amazing about Nia Long. Like, imagine Nia Long back in the day, like at her prime, and T.I. was dating her, and he chose to go over here with Tiny instead of Nia Long. So that is an indictment on Nia Long's character and her choices. So when it comes to you as a woman, you got to understand your choices of who you date can turn around and haunt you for the rest of your life. Don't start dating this guy and then 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 this guy, especially in your own industry. Because people talk and people know. Imagine with me, I'm a content creator, right? And say I meet a woman that's also in my industry, keyword industry, right? And she's a content creator. I really like her. She really likes me. And then as I'm learning more about this woman, as an example, I'm just making up names. Come to find out in this scenario, I found out she dated Derek Jackson. She dated DJ Academics. She dated Joe Budden. She dated Lil Duval. Just as an example. These are other podcasters and content creators. Do you think I would want to marry her then? The answer would be no. Because we all have like an ex that worked at here or ex that worked there or whatever. But when all of your exes or all of the people that you just unintentionally dated and you just liked them and they just liked you and y'all just hung out and, you know, if all the people that you dated, or there's a lot of people that you dated that are in the same sphere of influence, your industry, you dated how many content creators? How many podcasters? You know, just in my scenario, I would be like, no, you're just a pass around. So the same thing with Nia Long and the same thing with you. Whatever your industry is, please do not start dating different people in your industry because they're going to tell the other person and the other person is going to tell the other person. And at some point, you're going to meet somebody that you really want to be with. And they're going to find out how many people that you dated in your industry. And they're like, oh, no, I'm good. And you're going to end up having to settle for an M.A. Udoka. So this is not just about, M.A. Udoka is running around doing all this other stuff. Because we can't really learn from that. But we can learn how Nia Long got there. One, she got passed around the industry for the last 20 years. Nobody wanted to be with her or marry her. She has a child with one of the guys. And then that was 20 years ago. And then 10 years later, she turns around and has another baby by another guy that did not marry her, which is M.A. Udoka. And it's most likely that's the only reason why he asked to marry her in the first place, because they had a baby. So it was a certain amount of pressure there. So he probably didn't even want to marry her, because if he did want to marry her, they probably would have got married. But there's a possibility that he was being him, which is cheating and doing this and doing that. Because there was something else that came out about her saying, like, I'm not in a rush to get married because we got to figure out what we're doing, or what you know, she kind of like in a way said, he keeps doing something that is making me second guess getting married, if you get what I'm saying. So I think M.A. Udoka was M.A. Udoka-ing 5, 10 years ago, but she stayed with this freaking dude instead of letting him go. So I hope you got the lessons from this, because this is not about gossip. This is about what can we learn from these people's situations. Be careful who you unintentionally date. I know it's a guy that might be cute. I know it's a guy might be tall or whatever you heard about. Leave that guy alone. Only date with intention. If a guy doesn't want a relationship, don't say, okay, we can. No. Date for marriage. Give yourself up for marriage. Or, because I'm not saying wait until marriage, but at least have a direction. Because if not, you can end up looking like Neil Long, one of the most beautiful women on the planet. But she may not be that beautiful up here. So make better decisions. Or end up like Neil Long and you're stuck with a guy like Udoka because nobody else wants you. Let me know what y'all think in the comments.